Welcome, everyone. We're just taking a few minutes as people join the webinar, and really looking forward to sharing the stories from the three incredible panelists that we have for you today on International Women's Day. Thank you for joining us. It's a day of women being inspired by women worldwide. My name is Rachel Pulfer, and I'm the Executive Director of Journalists for Human Rights. And it is my great privilege today to be moderating this conversation between three powerhouse women leaders from Kenya, Uganda, and Afghanistan. Give it a few minutes just while people are coming in. So this year, we join the Government of Canada in celebrating women who inspire us by demonstrating leadership in the global fight for gender equality. The three panelists with us today are each in their own way, in their own area of expertise, working to help women and girls access their basic human rights. They stand strong for women's rights as we forge ahead in what is hopefully the last leg of the world's battle against the pandemic, and also as the ugly ramifications of war and conflict play out across the world. It is my honor now to introduce the three panelists, and I'm starting with Purity Gikunda. Purity is the co-founder of the Greenland School. It's a school for teenage mothers in Kajiado County in Kenya. She is a social work and community development graduate from the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, and she works with CSOs across Kajiado County. Purity has been advocating for the education of teenage mothers all over Kenya, and she has enrolled over 300 teenage mothers countrywide back to school. Her dream is to see teenage mothers have access to education in safe, judgment-free environments in every county of Kenya. Esther Nakkazi is a health and science reporter based in Kampala in Uganda. She is the founder of the Health Journalist Network in Uganda that trains and mentors journalists in science reporting. Esther was a mentor and trainer in the International Women's Media Foundation's Global Health Reporting Initiative course and the Mentoring for Excellence project in science reporting for the World Federation of Science Journalists. She contributes to media outlets around the world. And last but by no means least, Mariam Atahi is a journalist and women's rights activist from Afghanistan. She has worked as a communications officer for Save the Children International and also for UNICEF. She is the co-founder of the Feminine Perspectives Campaign, which is a woman-led effort to document Afghan women's desires for their lives. This awareness and community building initiative continues to inspire the brave women protesting against the Taliban's denial of their basic rights today. Mariam was forced to flee Afghanistan after the Taliban takeover in August 2021. She has a BA in Political Science and International Relations from Kabul University and an MA in Peace and Reconciliation and International Politics from the University of Winchester in the UK. We're going to begin, however, with Purity Gikunda. Thank you so much again, Purity, for joining us. Before you talk about your school for teenage mothers, I'm wondering if you could tell our audience a little bit more about the situation you were responding to. In interviews, you've described teenage mothers as ignored by law and isolated by society. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Purity again here from Kenya, Kajiado County, the founder of Greenland School, a special school for teenage mothers. I'll tell the audience that what motivated me or what I found in the ground or the situation that I responded to was the crisis that I saw in my country about a very big number of girls who dropped out of school because of pregnancies. In fact, the statistics are staggering as we are talking, because in my county of Kajiado, 5,700 girls dropped out because of pregnancies in 1 year. And in the entire country, we had over 300,000. And this really touched my heart. And I felt that if we continue like this and these girls continue dropping and staying at home, things are getting out of hand. and something really, really needed to be done, and needed to be done very fast. I'm a social worker by profession, and I do help women to come and register in groups together with the youth so that they can benefit from the government funding. So these girls used to come to me trying to get help so that I could register them to join groups so that they can benefit from the funds. But these girls being underage, there's no way they could be registered. So I used to send them back. And they used to go back home crying. They have come with their babies on their backs. They want to benefit from the funding, but there's no way they could benefit. This is what made me feel that there's a crisis that really needs to be addressed. And these girls need help and they need to be taken back to school. So that is the situation that I found on the ground and the situation that I tried to respond to. Thank you. About the phrase ignored by law and isolated by society, it is very true. Teenage mothers in my country are ignored by law and isolated by society, simply because the law is very silent on teenage mothers. Bearing in mind these girls, they have not reached the official age of consent. So I feel that these girls are victims of defilement and abuse, but nothing that comes from the law to protect these girls, or maybe to support them, since any girl who gets pregnant, who is under the age of 17, without the consent of the girl, that is total defilement. But nothing, the law doesn't say anything. So the law has ignored the girl. The society as well has isolated them. So, because most of the society and the community people feel that these girls are accursed, they are burdens, not remembering that these are just children who have been forced into the situation that they are in, not on their own, but some people out there who are grown up, old enough to be their dads, old enough to be their grandpas, has just violated their rights, have impregnated them and left them to suffer. So that's why I keep on saying that teenage mothers, they are ignored by law, especially in my country, and they are isolated by society. And I felt that as little as I will be able to do, I will start with these girls, I will support them, and I will make sure that I've given them a second chance to resurrect their dreams and continue with their education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Purity. And we'll come back to how important this work is, especially with COVID, a little later on in the program. But now we're going to go to Esther Nakkazi. And Esther, if you could please share with the audience a little bit more about the Health Journalism Network in Uganda and why you felt that it was so important for women journalists to cover health.
Thank you very much, Rachel, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Happy Women's Day. It's a great day for all of us to celebrate. The Health Journalists Network was founded in 2011, and really we came together thinking that I thought it was important that journalists who are covering health, and by default, everybody, I think, in their countries, not only in Uganda, but everywhere in the world, I think many women cover health. So by default, we have the biggest number of journalists in the Health Journalists Network as women journalists. And we came together, and the organization was founded in 2011, and we cover health. And I think it is also important that women journalists cover who cover health at the forefront of doing this, because we interface with the health systems more than the men. We see what is on the ground more than the men, and we sort of give the reader a perspective that we relate with what is going on. So the Health Journalists Network does a lot of fun things. We do media cafes, we talk to scientists, we go ahead and try and promote women scientists. But in terms of journalists, really, we do a lot of training, we do media science cafes, we do cover health topics. And for a woman journalist to cover some of these things, you relate with what is going on, because you're the eye of the society down there. Many women have their rights infringed upon, their rights trampled on, and the health system is not very kind to them usually. So when a woman is at the center and at the forefront of covering these things, I think it makes a lot of sense, and it gives them an opportunity to tell the readers, to show what is happening. And that's one of the reasons that the health journalist is playing.
Can you share with the audience what inspired you to start the network?
The network was started because, well, there were so many journalists who I thought needed training, especially the women journalists who were younger, and they did not have anybody to look up to. There was no mentorship. There was no opportunity for them to learn with it. It's really not, some countries don't have that privilege of trainings and being educated to a higher level. So there was an opportunity for me, or the opportunity that I saw, that these journalists can learn from each other, the senior journalists and the young journalists. And I thought, well, we can mentor each other, we can train each other. We have this opportunity as journalists to grow and build this wonderful network where we can do fun things and cover news, and at the same time we are furthering our careers. So it inspired me because I had benefited so much as a woman journalist, and I thought there are this group of people who also have benefited like I have, and then there's another group that hasn't, or is coming on the front, and they will need to understand these things, and they will need to be guided, and they will need this training. So that's one of the things that inspired me.
Amazing work. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, and to Mariam, you've been a journalist as well, but more recently you've devoted your life to activism for women's rights in Afghanistan. You're the co-founder of the Feminine Perspectives campaign, and I'd like you to share with the audience what inspired you to start that campaign, what it is, and why you feel it is so very important, especially right now.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the audience that attending to this webinar, and happy Women's Day to all. It's a really, really important day for all of us. It's a solidarity day, especially for the Afghan women who are currently suffering from the given situations, suffering from on the ground, and also their rights are being denied by the current authorities on the ground. So thank you so much for all around the world women who were stand with us, and who are still trying to put efforts standing by us and making sure that Afghan women are receiving those amount of support and also help. As mentioned, Mariam from Afghanistan, in 2018, when they talked, what inspired me to establish this network, or not network, or to start this movement, is a volunteer movement with a group of 5 other ladies. We started to collect and gather the indigenous narratives and story of Afghan women across Afghanistan. Let me tell you give you a bit brief background on about the society in Afghanistan. We have a very diverse society, and Afghanistan is very diverse. So we have like ethnics, like five or six groups of ethnics, which is with the very various different cultures and also norms and these kinds of stuff. So in every part of Afghanistan, you could see lots of differences when it comes to the traditions, and also when it comes to the society, and also the norms, and also the practices. And so in the north of Afghanistan, people are willing to send their girls to school. In the south, the community is very close. They are not willing to send to school, but in the core, everyone wants to go to school. Everyone to have access to their basic and the fundamental rights. So what inspired me to start this, to collect and gather those narratives, what women desire, what woman really wants. So while we went to negotiation with the Taliban and the peace process, so while they were debating on women rights and women's situation in Afghanistan, so we wanted to, there was a perception was shaped that there is a big gap between the rural area and urban area. It means that women who are living in Kabul or the big cities, and women those are living in rural area or the remote area, there's a big gaps in terms of their desire, in terms of their demands. But it wasn't, but there was a perceptions that has been given to the community, and people were thinking, and there was a mindset. So we wanted to bring those stories, those narratives within the negotiation table with the Taliban and also the other side of negotiations, to make sure that women who are living in Kabul have the same desire. They really want the same things with those women who are living in the remote area of Afghanistan. So in the core, in the fundamental rights are the same, but maybe in the style is different, but maybe in the practice is different, but in the core is completely different. So we wanted to see that what women want in the remote area. They want to have access to educations. They want to have access to work, right to educations, have political participations, and also be a journalist and part of the change in Afghanistan, and also wants the, I mentioned, basic rights. So we actually, I will count that what happens and where we are now, but why this, why it was important. I have mentioned that, I mean, to be a voice and be a bridge between women who are living in the remote area and women who are living in the urban area or in the cities, that we can be bridge and bring their voice. So their voice should be heard, even by the communities, even by the negotiation team on that time, and also the Taliban, who believes that women who are living in the area, they are westernized. They live with the US or the Western countries' cultures, or we wanted to change the perceptions that it's not Western cultures. It's a very fundamental human being rights that you have to practice it.
Such incredibly important work, and that work also took so much courage, what you're describing, ensuring that in these negotiations, which are so often just men talking to men, that women's voices and women's perspectives and an understanding of what women actually want is centered in those conversations. And that's been your work, Mariam, and we are so honored and proud to have you with us today. So thank you so much for that. We'll hear more, but coming back to Purity, in your years of social work, you've also worked extensively to combat female genital mutilation and early marriages in Kajiado County. How have you seen the situation worsen in these past few years during COVID? And what role can the media play, in your opinion, in strengthening your fight for women and girls' rights?
Okay. In fact, COVID-19 has been our worst nightmare because it really hit us bad. And all our work was watered down. But still, we are trying our best to make sure that we are getting back. I lost a lot of many girls were displaced, and they were forced to get back into the forced marriage where we had rescued them from. And a lot of girls underwent the FGM. Bearing in mind, especially like my county, Kajiado, the practice is still very, very rampant. And unless people like us from CSOs who keep on fighting and trying to rescue girls from forced marriages, FGMs, when COVID came, everything now was just watered down. Many girls were forced into marriages, many girls were cut, and there's nothing much we could do because of the lockdown. We could not get out of our places to go and rescue girls. we could not, at least even communication was not that good, because the rural areas, there is not that good kind of communication. So we lost a lot of girls, not only on FGM and forced marriages, but 19 girls from my school got pregnant again for the second time, which really, really hit me hard. I felt so bad that I've lost 19 out of the big number that I recruited, and I was seeing a light ahead, but it didn't deter me from trying to bring them back. As we are talking, 16 of them are back to school, although now they've got 2 babies. But this one is not going to stop us from making sure that even the 3 who are remaining are coming back. And I really thank journalists for human rights, because they've really, really helped us now to highlight our stories in the media. And many people didn't know if we existed. The organization or the school was launched in 2014, but very little people knew about us. Until one day when I attended a training organized by Journalists for Human Rights. And when I went there, I took some contact from the guys from the media who kept on asking me about what we do. They wanted to highlight our stories, and bang, everybody knew about us now. Even those girls who were lost, they were sent back to school. People kept on calling. My phone is never quiet now because we are the talk of the country. So I really thank JHR, because before those trainings, very few people knew about us. Okay, the number is overwhelming because more girls now are coming, they are being sent to school, but we thank God that now people know about us and they are coming. Because in those people who would like to know more about us, they don't come empty-handed. They come with sanitary pads, they come with food. So I can see that our partnership with the media has been wonderful. And I am very sure that if we continue like this, my dream of having 47 schools in my country, representing the 47 counties, will come to pass courtesy of JHR. So you guys, you really, really, really helped us, and highlighting our stories have made a very big difference. As I said, we started in 2014, and our main purpose was to enroll girls from FGM and forced marriages. Until now, we came and find another special group that was even more vulnerable, because this one, they have their babies at their back, and they also need help, and they need to be enrolled back to school. And in 2018, during the October 10th, during the International Day of the African Child, that's when now we launched the other program for the teenage mothers. So now we decided to go hand in hand, FGM, forced marriages, and teenage mothers. But now the teenage mothers group is even becoming more bigger than the other vulnerable group. And we really thank God, because in the near future, we are trying even to accommodate the babies. So we want to come with the babies, because most of the girls who would like to join us, they have an impediment. They have their babies, and their babies are left to, maybe their mother and their parents, they are not willing to be left with the kids. So we feel that once we accommodate the babies together with their mothers, it will be so good, because they won't suffer again trying to think, maybe my baby has not eaten, maybe the parents are not willing to take care of the babies because they have the kids of their own. Through the same publicity from the media, we are now trying to make sure that we have come up with the center for the kids. And once we get the center for the kids, everything will be done in the same compound. And I'm very sure our girls will get education, and still we will have the children care. God willing, baby schools will start from our center as well. So I'm so glad, I'm so delighted, and I'm looking forward for better things to come. Yeah, thanks.
Incredible work, Purity. I love your dream. I hope that we can help you to realize your dream, because it is so powerful and so needed and so beautiful. And the idea of having basically childcare on site at school, it's so needed in so many places. So thank you so much for sharing that. And we'll be coming back to another point later on in the conversation. But now switching to Esther, if you could share from your perspective as a journalist, what do you see as the role of the media during the pandemic, especially in relation to enhancing access to health and safety for women? And if you could describe maybe one or two examples of the impact your organization has had during the pandemic in that way.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Purity and Mariam. In Uganda, like everywhere, the pandemic was really bad, and it was bad for journalists, more so for women journalists, I must say, because we are caregivers, we have a much bigger role, and when the pandemic hit, we had all these issues that we are running around us as journalists, but also what was happening around us was also a reflection of what was happening to other women out there in the community. So during the pandemic, our roles, it was sort of a blessing for the health journalists, one, because we were already covering health and we knew we had this background and this was a pandemic. So that was a blessing. But in terms of us enabling women out there access health and safety, because during the pandemic, there was a lot of gender-based violence. There was a lot of mental health issues. There were a lot of issues that were rotating around women. There were restrictions in movement because, and a woman is typically the person who will wake up in the morning and go buy food and do ABCD. So with all those things and that squeezed space, there was a lot of issues that women were facing. And I think our role then was to highlight what was happening around, not only in terms of science, that was a given because, it was a pandemic. People had to understand the virus and what is going on, what should be done. So that information was passed on by the media. But also on the other hand, the socioeconomic factors that were affecting especially women had to be highlighted. So it was the role of the journalists to highlight these issues, show the policymakers, show the people in government that this is happening. Women are being beaten. Women do not have money. Women are, there is a lot of nutrition issues. They can't access healthcare. They can't do this. So I think every health journalist stepped up, and besides covering the pandemic, the socioeconomic issues were also covered. And we also had a duty, we have a duty, because the pandemic is still ongoing in a way, we had a duty to tell the public, the women, if you're not accessing your meds at this point in time, this is an alternative you can do. There are these issues that you can, you can do it this way and get your meds. If you're facing gender-based violence, there is a way this can be solved. You can call this number. So the articles also had, the way we are communicating also had a lot of information in how do you solve this? If you're facing this, we are giving you this information. We are empowering you. If your man is beating you, try and fight for your rights. And I must say that during the pandemic, we had an opportunity to work with JHR, and we had a training. We strengthened our knowledge about what rights people have. And that enabled us pass on that information. Because if you're seated somewhere and you're a woman and you're being abused, you don't have the financial resources to even make noise, to even talk about it. You can get suffocated, you can die. So the moment we got that space with JHR and they trained us and we are empowered, then we also had the energy. We were also energized to talk about the rights of women, the rights of minorities, other minorities who were also suffering during the pandemic. And we passed on the information, and our role really enable us to give the know-how. What do you do? Why this is something that you're facing, but there's a way around it. There's a way you can deal with it. Don't die in silence. You have your rights, you have this information, at least call this number. If it's a young girl and she's being, there's this information that you can call up somebody and talk to them. Our roles really got bigger, and we explained the science, but we also showed the socioeconomic issues that were happening, and we also highlighted the rights, really, what people should do in terms of if your rights are trampled, this is what you can do.
Thank you so much, Esther. That is extremely powerful and incredibly important work. And I'm delighted to hear that the JHR piece helped to encourage you guys to move forward and do more and share the incredibly important information that you were describing. Thank you so much. And you also touched on the very grim reality that women died during this pandemic, often at the hands of people close to them. And that there is that risk. And so therefore it's important to have channels to be able to reach out, to network, to speak out about the kinds of oppression that we saw in the home as a result of all of these lockdowns. Going to Mariam now for a moment. Mariam, as you know, JHR has been working to support journalists, human rights defenders, women rights defenders as they evacuate Afghanistan. But how can the international community and international media support Afghan women's fight for their rights within Afghanistan?
Thank you so much, Richard, and thank you so much for the panelists. I really heard some inspiring stories from Kenya and also from Uganda. I really like it, and I got inspired if I could also start use that idea in the ground for Afghanistan, because we are actually in the same context and suffering from the same issues and concern. I mean, for the past 6 months, it has been 6 months now that, of course, Afghan women's journalists are suffering within Afghanistan and also outside Afghanistan, living in uncertainties and also with the confusion. We are all lost at what's happening and struggling with your identity, what will happen and how future would holds you. I mean, it's all kind of that it's a pain that you're going through those days. So, but of course, at some point, we should acknowledge that the international communities and also the human rights institution and individuals who have been very supportive to the Afghan journalists and also the human rights defenders in Afghanistan to pull them out from Afghanistan, evacuated them to some safe zone. I'm sure some of them all living in the US or in the Canada and also the Europe countries, which is good. It shows the world solidarity towards women when they are in the particular situations. But at the same time, we are also urging for more support. Still, we see that lots of journalists are stuck in Afghanistan. Lots of journalists stuck in the third countries, like in Turkey or the Pakistans or India or some other countries that are struggling there on the daily basis with their daily life. They don't have anything to eat or struggling with the legal status like visa and this kind of stuff. So we are urging, of course, GHRs, who's leading as in Canada, leading these things, which is we really appreciate, but we need more support. I was talking with two women in Afghanistan. One is a woman rights activist, and also one is the journalist. They are living in hide in Afghanistan. We just were the witness of 40 women who were detained by the Taliban for an unknown place for almost 3 weeks, and now they are free now, but we don't know what will happen to them in coming days or in coming weeks. So they were out to shout their voice, and they were out on the street to asking for to have food, work, and also education. That's all. There was 3 words that they were shouting for that on the street, but they are being denied by the Taliban. Unfortunately, we could see that, of course, Ukraine situations, Ukraine issues is some sort of put some shadow on the Afghanistan situations, especially with the women's rights and also, women journalists. But still, we really want from the human rights defenders, journalists, institutions who are really have the capacity or they can do support, they can put more efforts to be able to rescue their lives. And I also want to add on women feminine perspective campaign that we are still working on the ground. We are collecting the stories around Afghanistan, and we really wanted to bring those stories at this particular time where women are suffering in the bad situation, what they really want. What inspired me is that all women who are living in Afghanistan, they really don't want to get out of the country. They really want to be home, but have access to educations. They have access to their basic and fundamental rights. So nobody wants to get out. So what we can do to provide those opportunities, provide those services to make sure that we they can have access to those things and practicing their rights and their desires. So Feminine Perspective campaign is collecting those stories. We have been collected thousand narratives, indigenous stories. They are in the Facebook, Twitter, and our websites. We have audios, we have videos where the women have talked. So yeah, these are the things that we could see a tangible achievement and tangible change, that we at least we change the perceptions towards women. Thank you.
Just incredible work, Mariam. So powerful, so inspiring. And just for the audience's benefit, we will be sharing the websites of all of these women and all of their work on our social media so that you can follow along and follow what they're doing for women's rights worldwide. It's just incredible. For Purity, since 2014, you've changed the story for 300 young girls who otherwise would not have been able to go back to school. What advice would you give to other grassroots leaders who are fighting for gender equality?
Oh, yes. Since 2014, I've changed the lives of over 300 girls, and I really thank God for that. The advice I can give to other grassroots leaders or women on the grassroots is that once you find a problem, please try your best and look for a solution, no matter how minimal it is, because it is going to change. Whatever that was there before, even if you will change one girl or one person, you've really changed the situation. Because we will be making, we are trying to make a network of which word do I use? We are trying to make a network of change makers. You've changed my life today, I will change somebody's life tomorrow, and the chain will continue like that. So I believe in identifying a problem and seeking for a solution, no matter how small it is. Because I know once I solve one problem, it will not be there again. Like the 3 girls that I've taken back to school, the 300 dreams that I have resurrected, I'm 100% sure that that will remain like that. And these 300 we will recruit. Even if they will not recruit 300, they will recruit 200 or 100. So I'm making a chain of change makers. And that is what I would like to tell the women out there, the readers out there, anybody out there. Just change a life of one person and things will never be the same again. This will continue, and I believe that in 3, 4 years, 5 years to come, our world will be so different and better and beautiful than we find it.
Go on, Purity.
About the challenges, I can attest that I've faced a lot of challenges. There are people who feel that whatever I'm doing, I'm encouraging these girls to get pregnant all the time, because they know that there is a school there, there will be a breast there, and they will be incorporated there. I've faced that challenge, but I have faced it head on, because Those who tell me that I'm encouraging the girls to get pregnant, they don't understand that these are cases of defilement. These girls, they don't go there intentionally to get raped so that they can become pregnant. But people don't really understand that these are just children. Once you get a kid, people start thinking that now you're mature, you're a big woman, and you don't need any kind of help. So this is a challenge that I've faced, and I've decided to face it head on. And I'm even more motivated more than before, knowing that this is the perspective that people have about my girls. But to me, they are babies, only that they have kids. They are babies with babies. And all we need to do is to make sure that we've given them a second chance. We've resurrected their dreams. If we don't do anything for them, their lives and those of their kids will just be thrown to the dogs, which I, as Purity, am not going to start and see these girls suffer. As long as I am alive, I will struggle on my own. My school is the only school in my country. And I feel that since I have started this, other leaders and other women leaders will follow this. And once we get like 47 schools, that means a school in every county, the situation will be much better and more girls will be rescued from this eternal suffering. Because once you get a baby, you don't go to school and you've given birth at the age of 13. In fact, you will suffer eternally until you die. The same to your baby. So I feel that we need more people on board. We need to encourage people to see these girls as children and not as women. And I'm not there to encourage them to get pregnant so that they can come at my school. No, I'm there to make sure that they are protected. I'm their voice. I'm talking on their behalf because they are voiceless. They will continue getting pregnant every day if people like me and people like you who are highlighting our stories will just keep quiet. So we won't keep quiet. We won't keep mum. We are going to continue to fighting for teenage mothers because they are our daughters, they are our children. We feel the pain. I imagine myself, I am 42 years old, and the stress that I go through taking care of my children. What about a 13-year-old? How does that kid feel being called a mother, earning zero income, rejected by the parents who feel that this girl is ashamed to the family? So she's just traumatized. She's suffering out there. So that's why I asked God to give me strength, to give me enough strength to start with these girls. And I believe at the end of the day, I will change some few, even if it is 5. And now I can proudly say that it is not 5. I have already done it for 300. And the remaining life that God is going to give me, I'm not stopping at any cost. So I thank everyone for listening, for being there for us. And I ask my sisters from the other countries. I know each and every country has got the same problem. We've got teenage mothers all around. Please be a voice to them, hear them, try to give them a second chance in life so that they can resurrect their dreams, so that they can have what was taken by force from them can be taken back to them so that they can soldier on and make a good life for themselves. I want to stop thanking the journalists for human rights because it is because of them that now our doors are opening and I'm getting more girls coming to my school. I'm getting more people knowing that we exist. And I believe through the same organization, even my center will come to be, the baby center will come to be courtesy of JHR. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Such a privilege to work with people like you, Purity. And all I can say is the world needs more Purity Gikunda. And I hope that through this webinar, more people pick up your story and more people tell this story and get inspired to do more for teenage mothers. Because it's just such an incredible work that you have been able to lead and achieve. Esther, what would you tell other media platforms about how to effectively advance the fight for gender equality?
Thank you, Rachel. Gender equality in newsrooms needs to be promoted, especially in, all media need to look at how women perform and promote them in their different media houses. They need to be given opportunities. We need to hold each other's arm. If you're an editor and you have a young person who is coming in and is fresh out of school, they should be given those opportunities by the senior female journalists. I mean, we should feel for each other. So I feel like one of the things that should be done, there was a lot of job loss during the pandemic. And women, given the way we are family caretakers. So many women lost jobs. And I just feel like, I think in terms of media platforms, women should be given that push, their money shouldn't be cut. They should be given reasonable hours, because in the back of your mind, you know that this woman has something to do. In our organization, typically, we did actually, when we are doing the media science cafes, we deliberately call on scientists who are female, because we have all these male scientists who come around and they know their stuff fine, but the women also do. But if you do not deliberately go out and seek the women scientists, they sit back and they're shy, they don't want to talk to the media. So one of the things that media platforms should do is to actually put that as a policy and say, if you're covering these stories, we want to hear women coming out and speaking. Women scientists are there, they're important. It's just because they're media shy and some of them just, they don't want to be seen on TV but if you make a deliberate effort, they will come out. And we do that under our Media Cafe platform. But also for the JHR project, there was a deliberate effort for all the trainees who were on the project. At least, I think 90% of the journalists who participated in the JHR project in Uganda were female. And that helped a lot, because on top of the training that they got, there was also some allowance, to boost them. That went a lot to help them with their incomes at home. That went a lot into bringing out these stories that they couldn't otherwise have done if they were not supported. So I think that there needs to be a deliberate effort from the media platforms to push the women, give them, do something different for them, give them a push, because there's a lot of issues around there in their work systems. And if you do that, you will see the women shining. We've seen women shine, really. Women journalists shine, women scientists shine, women trainers shine. And it's about you as a platform, as a media platform, saying we are going to do this right, and we're going to do this in this way. It's not only women, but other also minorities. You could talk about sexual minorities. You also have to have a deliberate effort to show what is happening around them. Why, show that this is happening for them and give them some sort of space to talk and be heard. So I think in terms of the pay, in terms of promotions, in terms of deliberately bringing in women voices, that would help a lot in creating gender equity in the media.
100%. I'm so glad that you shared that. That's something that actually, there's an organization called Informed Opinions in Canada that is doing exactly the same work in terms of promoting that women be women be quoted as sources and experts as part of daily coverage. And it's great to hear that work happening also in Uganda. Mariam, I'm wondering if there's anything further from your work with women in Afghanistan that you would like this audience to know before we turn it over to the audience for questions. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. I wanted to share some primary examples that we have been collecting from the ground before the Taliban took over Kabul, and also now. So what are the woman desires? So I wanted to share a story from the eastern of Afghanistan that a girl wants. I mean, she sent has her story that she was being denied to go to school by his father, because she's now at age of 16 and she's not able to go to school because in the class where she's studying, two of her teachers are male, so they are not, the family don't want to send her to study in front of a male teacher, but she really wants to be an engineer of road. She wants to be a civil engineer of the road, and she wished to someday that her dream come true and be a part of the engineering industry, or to be a road engineer. So these are that she wants to go and pursue her higher educations and go to the university to study engineering. Another woman who from north of Afghanistan wants to be doctor, but of course lots of women who are asking to not be a teacher, not be only a doctor, but be a politicians, be a prime ministers, or be computer science experts, or be a communications or journalist. So these are the different expertise that and skills that woman really wants to have access. But now, of course, you can, by the current regimes, they only allow women who are to be a teacher or to be a doctor to serve in the medical systems and all. But of course, women in Afghanistan, we made a lot of progress for the past 20 years. We practiced lots of skills, we had lots of achievements. To preserve those achievements, it's not easy. So we have to bring up all those voices, indigenous voices of women, and also debating with the international, of course, by support of international communities. We need a push. We need international efforts, community efforts, to talk with the current de facto authorities, and also to put some efforts to be able to be on the ground, working with the women and bringing their voices on the table and debating for that women should have access to those fundamental rights and fulfill their desires and their dreams. So what Women Perspective campaign is doing, we are actually doing some volunteer jobs, volunteer efforts, that we are making sure that, as I mentioned, to bring all these stories, putting on the platforms, social media platforms, and also using medias, writing articles. So we are actually doing in different levels. One is we are putting all these stories in social media platforms and websites, Facebook, Twitter. We are also, this is the indigenous stories. We are writing articles. We are asking from the expertise to write articles on particular issues about women, to raise some kind of awarenesses. At the same time, we're also having some webinars, some like how Clubhouse, to kind of have just argument and discussions around these issues with different peoples, to collect different insights, different opinions, what people start thinking about women's issues or towards women. So these are the important that we are actually doing to make sure that women's rights are not being denied, at the same time to be able to bring on the table and debating on them at this particular time.
Incredible work. We have 5 minutes left in our webinar today, And one of the things I know, there's a lot of people on the webinar who want to make sure they can follow up with our panelists. So Purity, I'm wondering if you could share how people can find you. Are you on social media? Is there a website or a web link that you can put in the chat? What's the best way to be sure to be able to follow the work that you're doing with the school?
Yes, we are on Facebook. Our Facebook page is Greenland Girls School. Greenland Girls School is our Facebook page.
Great.
And also my page is Purity Gikunda. I'm on Facebook. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great. Esther, same question. How can people follow your work on social media and find you?
Oh, thank you, Rachel. I have a Twitter account at Nakkazi. I have a Facebook page. The Health Journalists Network has a Facebook page, which is the Health Journalists Network. We do have a website, www.hejnu.ug. And we also have, we do have a Facebook page. We have a Twitter account as HEJNU. And personally, I also have my account, but it's very easy to just put in Google and everything will show up. But I'll put them in the chat.
Thank you so much. And also same question for you, Mariam. How can people find you and the work of the campaign?
Thank you so much. We have a Feminine Perspective campaign Facebook, also Twitter, that I'm gonna share with Mahreen, that she can share with the audience if someone wants to, willing to connect with us. And as well as my own Facebook account. And also I deactivated my Twitter while I was in Kabul because of security situations and security concern. When I got out, but I didn't reactivate it, so I lost it. So I gone through some difficult time, but of course I'm gonna share all these with my emails, and also we have the Feminine Perspective email, so where people can connect with us, and if they want to hearing more from us.
Amazing work. So inspiring. I am so inspired by all of the stories that you have each shared. It really has been an incredible conversation. And I also am delighted to see JHR's work in action, in that all of you in your different ways embody the importance of centering women's and girls' rights and stories and coverage, and that through media, you've been able to direct attention on these core issues that have been affecting women and girls across the world, from Afghanistan to Uganda to Kenya, and that it is just so powerful to see that in action. So thank you so very much for sharing your stories and for sharing how people can track you down in order to continue to share this work and amplify it as we go through what we hope to be the last round with this horrible pandemic that has had such a powerful impact, in particular on women's and girls' lives. Thank you so very much for inspiring all of us. Continue doing the work that you do. Don't be strangers. Share your work and tag us on social media, and we'll reshare part of Shine Theory in order to ensure that women are supporting women and lifting one another up. And thank you to all the audience, and happy International Women's Day, everyone. Thank you for listening today.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you, my fellow panelists.
Thank you so much.
And all the people who attended, thank you.